Hello and welcome to MINYIP for our very first Supercoach BBL Round 1 preview show. I'm your host, Blake, and I'm joined by Clinton. How exciting, Clinton. It's finally here.
Yes, Blake, it's been a long time coming. We are recording on Wednesday night, and as of first thing this morning, I hadn't looked at my team hardly at all.
Don't tell the audience that.
No, I've been timing my run. It can be a lengthy off-season / pre-season, and now's the time to really knuckle down and sort your team out. And I've spent a lot of hours today sorting out my team, and I'm sure I'll chop and change a lot between now and the first game, but I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to get back into it. We've been recording some FPL since the start of that season, and also Supercoach Racing, which is quite good as well. We had a fairly big audience for that. So wherever you're listening to us today, we're on YouTube, Apple and Spotify podcasts. We're across social media platforms of Twitter, Instagram, TikToks, which one of your favorites, Clinton. And we're also on patreon.com for our followers who support the show. So make sure you check us out on those channels. There'll be links provided on the show notes and on the YouTube show. So check us out on those multiple platforms. Yeah, it's good to be probably the best platform to follow us on is the Twitter, Clinton, because we'll be posting league codes. We'll be posting all the videos and content that we'll be producing over the Supercoach BBL season. So look forward to sharing that content with the community. We'll get into discussing the teams. We'll talk about the league codes, and also we'll just run through our teams for the moment. We're still 5 days out from kicking off the BBL season, but so we'll talk through our teams as it currently stands. BBL's one of my favorite games, Clinton, because one of my probably most successful games overall. A couple of seasons ago, I finished 12th, and then last season I finished 294th, which wasn't too bad considering the amount of players and managers that play the game. How have you gone over previous seasons of Supercoach BBL?
I think okay, but a record or a number doesn't stick in my mind like it does for you. So I think I'm, not in the your realms, but I do quite well and I do enjoy it. So once it comes on our TV screens, I always end up watching the Big Bash every night. So looking forward to it, and hopefully I can try and challenge you, but I doubt it.
Yeah, we've been discussing BBL Supercoach for many years now. Just last week or two, thank you to Supercoach Data, who sent out a tweet releasing the Hall of Fame across the last two seasons for Supercoach BBL, and I was lucky enough to be 13th on that list. I was very nervous back in 2019. I remember it was in a pub back in Horsham watching the game with a few friends at a gathering. It was a very nervous time and fell short by about 13 Supercoach points overall out of falling out of the top 10. And one of our favourite players in Nick Larkin dominated the semi-finals and grand finals, who I failed to select. This year, there's no finals for BBL. In previous seasons, they've counted towards the overall score, but not this year. So that's one change to the game. So I might go a bit better this year with not having to select Nick Larkin in finals. That'll be good. We'll talk through some basic rules for starting your team first, Clinton, and give you some. We'll try and provide some advice as to how to structure up your team. So you select 2 wicket keepers, 7 batters, 7 bowlers. You got 2 on the bench for your batters and bowlers and 1 wicketkeeper on the bench. You select 3 emergencies each week. So that's important for Supercoach loopholing. Might discuss that in another show, Clinton, but there's some little tactics like that you can use to structure up your team to go up the rankings and just maximize your points each week.
Do it quickly now, Blake, because someone might want to do that for the first round. So just quickly, in terms of loopholes.
You're probably better explaining the loopholes, Clinton.
Well, it's always good to have an emergency in case a player is late out for whatever reason. But the main reason for a loophole is you put the vice captain on a player who plays early in the game week, for example, whether it be the first game. And for example, this week it'd be a Sydney Sixers player. And if that player dominates, you can then put a non-playing player from the bench onto your field, replace that with a starting player, put the emergency on that player, and put the captaincy on the non-playing player, and you'll have your vice-captain score doubled. How's that?
If that was too confusing, just leave a comment on the show notes for us, and we'll help you out with that. Also, we'll get into the Patreon a bit later, but if you follow us through the community, you'll have a chance to do one-on-one meetings with us to discuss your team and break down how loopholing works. You did all right there, Clinton. We got there in the end.
Thanks.
Each round, there are some teams that play twice and some teams have the bye each round. With BBL, the turnover of fixtures is quite fast, so it might be only 4 days where there's matches and then it's the very next round the next day. So it's important to consider the fixtures. That's probably one of the biggest assets I've used over the last 2 seasons, is planning in advance as to when players have their doubles and selecting players that I want on their double game weeks. I like to use the loopholing for players that are on their bye. So that player is not locked out until the end of the round and they're not going to play. Sometimes with loopholing, you might use a player and then they happen to play and your whole structure's ruined. So I like to plan ahead is my main strategy for Supercoach BBL. Another thing to consider is player availability. So there's so many players moving in and out of teams due to injuries and international duties. It's very important to consider that your player is going to be playing for the selected round. So for the first 3 rounds, you got the Australia A squad. Those players will be unavailable. We'll talk through later which some of those players are. And also the Australian Test team. Half of them aren't in any BBL teams because it just clashes way too much. But those players won't be available for BBL for a fair while until the late rounds. Your international players flying in and out of the country for games. We'll talk through each team and which players to target in terms of their international breaks. But yeah, you really got to stay on top of the sources of information. There's a new feature which I saw today. Thank you to Supercoach for posting that, where they put a red cross, I believe it is, on players that are unavailable for round 1, whether that be to international duties or for injury. So players like Finch has currently got an injury. But yeah, it's a really good feature so that you're not spending hours and hours stressing about which players are going to be playing round 1. So that's a really handy feature. The way the scoring works, so your players will score Supercoach points based on runs, strike rate, wickets, maidens, dots, economy rate, catches, runouts, just all the key features of cricket. So it's a great format to get involved with, and we definitely encourage everyone to join in our leagues and get involved in the game before lockout on Sunday. You get 3 trades per round, so it's 13 rounds. So you get 3 trades each week. They don't expire, so you may as well use 3 each week. It only get to really late stages if you happen to not need to use those trades. And that's pretty much most of my basic rules and key tips there, Clinton. It's all about getting the right balance of having double game week players, having your big name players, and also cash generation. So selecting the rookies at the start who will be playing, just getting the balancing act right there in terms of your cash generation so you can afford the bigger players later in the season. If you get the right balance, you'll be right up there in the rankings.
My only tip on top of all that, Blake, is I personally try and choose players who have multiple sources of ways of getting points. So the all-rounders are very valuable. And I know in the past I've chosen opening batsmen, for example, and if you're watching the game, they go out in the first over, you're quite demoralised because you know that's the only points that he might get. So that's when you're cheering hard for catches in the outfield or a run out, but it's always unlikely. But I personally watch the Big Bash games, just watching very specific players for my team and hoping for certain partnerships. And cheering for a bowler to come on and take some wickets and bowling at the death, etc. So, yeah, I'm pretty addicted once it starts, and I'm already anticipating some big scores with the Sixers and the Brisbane Heat doubling up in the first round. So I'm sure there's plenty of players I'll be cheering for in those from those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll discuss those teams for their round one fixture when we get up to it. But I definitely agree there that having the all-rounders has been a key aspect of my Supercoach over the last few seasons. Being able to move players from batsmen to bowlers for those dual positions are very handy. Players like Dan Christian, who's actually been pretty good over the last few seasons, taking catches in the outfield, where you might be able to pick up some handy points. Wicket keepers taking catches or even taking a stumping, you get 15 points for a stumping. So, having those multiple sources of points is very handy. So, good tip there, Clinton, for our listeners of the show. We'll go to our leagues now. So, we'll be posting them on our Twitter pages, and they'll be graphically shown on the YouTube channel. So, we'll have these league positions will go very fast, Clinton. So if you want to join these leagues, make sure you get in as fast as you can, because they're limited this year. There's only going to be 10 leagues available. And I know some people in the Twitter community that just jump in every single league they can. So for our first league code, the code is 856645. And we've also got a group. So the group's unlimited. This way we can see everyone from our community all in the one place, and they're not competing in a head-to-head league. So the code for that one is, for the group code, 784369. And we've also got one additional league this season, Clinton, which is our Patreon league. So whoever subscribes to our Patreon league whoever subscribes to our Patreon channel will receive this league code. This league, we're hoping, will be right up there in the rankings and pushing for the number one position. So we pretty much only want the dedicated super coaches in this league, so that we know they're going to be playing week in, week out. They're going to be listening to the show and joining in our community. So we're going to be posting that on our Patreon. So if you go onto patreon.com/MINYIP Fantasy Sports Community, you'll see us on there. Check out which tier you want to follow. Tier 1 will just get you into the group chat on our Twitter channel, but it'll also get you into our league as well. So to get into that top league, make sure you subscribe to Patreon. And in the higher tiers, you'll be able to get a one-on-one meeting with Clinton or I, or both of us, for a 10-minute discussion of your Supercoach team. So it's important to do that before round one, so we can help you out. Going on Zoom. Thank you. Yeah, we're not going to come out face-to-face to Brisbane, unfortunately, or wherever you might be listening to us. But, yeah, we'll do a Zoom chat. If you're close enough, we might catch up for a coffee, but we'll see how we go. That's, hopefully that all makes sense, Clinton. So we've got the group code, the league code, and our Patreon league there. So, like I mentioned, they'll fill up fast with the limited sizes this year. They've really capped them down. So there'll be...
What I will say, Blake, is that for anyone listening, that Blake does a power work in all formats of fantasy for this MINYIP fantasy sports community, and this is his domain. So you can hear the excitement in Blake's voice. He's super excited. So ultimately, the Patreon is just a small show of support for the amount of work that you do, Blake. And then, with the leagues, I'm sure they'll fill up. But if you do just join the leagues, please just join one. But then, obviously we're trying to get all the serious Supercoach BBL players into our Patreon to try and get one league right up there in the rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be good to... Yeah, I'm very passionate about my BBL Supercoach, Clinton, because you well know that I am messaging you throughout every single game just about, and saying what's happening.
There's a few swear words.
Yeah, well, not mainly coming from you, but
yeah, that's true. Actually,
if even like the slightest a drop catch or a miss run out opportunity or something, we're unhappy about it because we're following our teams each and every game. So Yes, we're very excited. We'll go through each team now, Clinton, and discuss some key players who we might be considering for our teams. And we'll also just talk about their fixtures and how we think they'll go for the season. So we'll go through alphabetically if you're okay with that.
Yeah, nice and quick. Let's go.
Yeah, okay, very good. So we got the Adelaide, Strikers. The top price player there is Rashid Khan, 198k. He's pretty much going to be locked in for every game. He's going to be batting and bowling. They've got the good fixtures of having a double up in game week 2, but then they've got the bye in week 3, which makes it quite interesting how many Adelaide Strikers you'll be selecting for that round 2 fixture with only the 3 trades. Some key players that I personally like watching and having in my team, which I'll be targeting for round 2, will be Rashid Khan, 198k, Jake Weatherald, who will be opening the batting, 133k, Harry Nielsen, who will be taking the gloves, is 76k because of Alex Carey's on Australia A duties and probably Australian Test squad duties by the time he's done with that. And Matthew Short, I think he'll have some opportunities in the earlier rounds with Carey and Head not playing. They're going to struggle, I think, with their batting order this season. So I think he'll get some good opportunities at the start. Matt Renshaw's on Australia A duties. And yeah, that's about it from their squad because there's a few internationals coming across. They've got Rashid Khan, George Garton's coming across from England, but I'm unsure of how they'll use him. They potentially might use him as a sub, bowl him in early overs and then sub him out of the game. He might be susceptible to that. Clinton, who did you like at Adelaide Strikers?
Well, just quickly, I did see that Carey got the gloves for the first test, I believe. So,
okay.
It's very similar. I don't mind those options you mentioned, but there's one name that I want to mention is Fawad Ahmed.
Yeah,
he's been a long-term player in my team, and just the fact that they actually played Melbourne Renegades the first game at Marvel, and with the lack of batting depth at the Renegades at the moment, just for budget reasons, and obviously with the Brisbane Heat and Sydney Sixers, a lot of teams would be chock full of those players. But just for this game week, or this round, I'm thinking Ahmed's a good cheap option to play, obviously, versus the Renegades, but then to have in hand for the double game week and game week 2. And then I'm sort of hoping maybe Khan has a bit of a quiet first game, but in saying that he's probably get FIFA. But then I can bring in Khan for the second round. But yeah, I don't mind Ahmed at a pretty good price, and he bowls well everywhere. And from memory, I think Marvel's always a bit of a spitting wicket, so I don't mind that option.
Yeah, I was looking at him as well. There's a few names here that I was considering for the double up fixture because it's good we get to have a look at them in round 1. I don't think their team will change too much from round 1 to round 2. They're not going to have people coming back from those test duties straight away. So another name I was considering there was Ryan Gibson. I think he might get some opportunities there early on. We'll go to Brisbane Heat.
Sorry, mate. Just one more.
Yeah.
With Nielsen, I know you're probably going to have him in your team, but for me, I'm very intrigued to see exactly where he bats. Yeah. If he ends up batting in the top 4, I'll definitely bring him in for the second round, but I'm sort of a bit of a wait and see for me. He might bat 5 or 6 or maybe a 6, and if he does that, he's someone maybe I'll bypass in the second round, but we'll see.
I've done a little bit of a mock lineup for the Adelaide Strikers for round 1, and from what I can see, I've currently got Nielsen as opening with Weatherald. But he very well could slide all the way down to 6. Like Jono Wells, he's another one that could slide anywhere in that order. Yeah. They're quite up in the air. That's why I want to wait and see for that round 1 and see how that goes. Brisbane Heat with the important double up in round 1. But then they've got the bye in round 2. So you don't want to go too hard at the Brisbane Heat players here, Clinton, but there is some important players to consider. out of this team already due to injuries and international duties is Labuschagne, Swepson, Steketee, Abel, Nisa, and that is about it. So the Majib Uraman is one of the highest priced players in Supercoach this season. He's 208k. He's been performing well overseas in the BBL off season, so he's going to be popularly owned in round one, but he's quite expensive. Chris Lynn's 172k. Those two players will be in my team in round one, Clinton. They won't be moving. Their coach said today Chris Lynn will be opening the batting come round one, and he's got the double up. We know what he can do with the bat, so he'll be in my team. One important player who might be a bit of a differential at the moment, who's only playing in the first 3 games for Brisbane Heat, is Ben Duckett. I think he'll open the batting with Chris Lynn. He could slide down the order a little bit, but I think he'll take the gloves and he'll be opening the batting. So he's currently in my team as a bit of a differential. Some other key players, Jack Wildemoth, he's an all-rounder. Baisley and Bartlett will get opportunities early. I also like what Max Bryant can do with the bat. He burst onto the scene in his early seasons as being one of the Bash brothers, as they like to call him. But last season, he had a bit of a out of form patch, so he slid down the order a bit, and I think that potentially might happen again for the early rounds. That's how I see the Brisbane Heat, Clinton. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Wildemoth. He started really well last year, so I'm definitely going to have him. And yeah, I'll definitely keep it and have a thing about that Duckett player. But yeah, I've got, similar to you, Majib is very, very expensive, but he's a type of player that could ruin your season early if he dominates in round one. And yeah, Bartlett, good fast opening bowler and gets lots of swing, gets wickets. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm leaning towards obviously having Wildemoth, Bartlett, Majib and Lynn. So there's my 4, I think.
It'll be interesting to see how they line up in round one, because they've got so many bowlers out on international duties, like Steketee, Nessa are out at the moment, which provides some opportunity for some lesser owned, lesser played players such as Sully, Kuhneman, and Bartlett and Baisley. They could get some opportunities early in the season, but wouldn't be surprised if they start dropping out of the team come round 4 and 5 when these players do come back into the team. So it'll be interesting to see their lineup for round one. The coach did say today that Kuhneman is likely to play round one and Bartlett is available for round one as well. So it'll be good to see them get some games early. We go across to the Hobart Hurricanes now. They don't have a double game week until round 6, which makes their players quite interesting. I love Darcy Short. If he doesn't perform with the bat, he somehow tweaks some wickets with his bowling. He's 179k. I'd love to have him in my team, but with having that late double up game week, it's hard to own many Hobart Hurricane players at the moment. I personally will only be using him as cash generation players. So a player that's standing out to me at the moment who played well today in a practice match was Josh Cairn, I believe you pronounce his name. He's 42k, batsman bowler. He was the best bowler today for that scratch match. So he'll be on my bench come round one, and hopefully it'll be good to see him play round one against Sydney Sixers. They don't have a bye until round 8, and then they have a double up again in round 10. So, yeah, there's not too many players that I'm considering for my starting lineups for Hurricanes Clinton, but some players I like, and Nathan Ellis. I think Matthew Wade will be available quite early in the season compared to previous seasons. He's only 145k, so a bit of value there. Jordan Thompson coming across from England, I believe, 125k. Lamishaine's quite cheap for what he's done previously, 103k. And Joel Paris, who's signed with the Hurricanes, he played today in the scratch match. He did have a red arrow, red cross on him, but he did go on the field today, so 62k is good value as well. What do you make of the Hurricanes?
Yeah, they're a bit of wait and see. I think Wade is potentially injured and may not play. But that's a possibility. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but he may not play. And then, Short's obviously a gun player, and it's one of those players that can either score massive, or if he disappoints, sometimes he can score low. But I'm pretty much weighing up between Short and Maxwell in my team, and that's a decision which I'm going to probably toss up for the next couple of days. But at this stage, Darcy Short's in my team because he can, I believe, the thing that edges him out over Maxwell is that Maxwell can sometimes bat 4 or 5, and it's a bit of a game situation, whereas Short opens the batting and, he does sneak in some overs. So that's why I'm potentially just leaning towards Short for now. And, potentially watching Maxwell for the first couple of rounds before they have a double and go in round 3.
Personally, I would be going Maxwell just because of the round 3 double up fixtures for Stars, whereas that's where the fixtures come into play, in my thinking personally, Clinton. But each to their own of the players they like. Renegades are quite an interesting roster. They've got the most players listed on Supercoach at the moment. They've got 20 on there. I don't think they've got a single bye. They don't have a double up until round 11.
That's right.
I think the Adelaide batting lineup will be vulnerable early. Like we already mentioned, they're quite unsettled there, not having Carey and Head. And I think they could be a bit vulnerable to the Renegades bowling attack. So I actually like Kane Richardson, who's 152k, and Mohamed Nabi is 139k batsman bowler. So I like the bowlers going into their first 2 fixtures where they play against Adelaide in both their 2 matches. I believe Fraser McGurk's good value. I think he'll open the batting with the Aaron Finch injury. He's still got a bit of injury. I think it's a back injury, with Finch.
I'm not sure, but it sounds as if he may miss the first couple of rounds. So
it's
a bit of a wait and see, but he's a tough bugger from country boy, so who knows, he might get up.
Yeah, a bit of mixed information coming out about Finch at the moment. So I'll either be selecting McGurk or Finch, whoever's taking that opening spot come round 1, I believe. I think McGurk will be opening. Sutherland's got good value there. He played quite well today in a practice match, scoring some runs, and he'll bowl as well. But he's one player that I selected in previous seasons, and I think you did as well, Clinton, that he hasn't really performed when it came to the big time. He's 73k. This might be a season that he turns it around.
He's only young. He's getting better.
Yeah,
I'm a Renegade supporter, Blake, so don't go too hard on my boys.
I remember him destroying your team last season. So that there's a few injuries at the moment with Renegades. They've got Sean Marsh is out of the team, Aaron Finch, Marcus Harris is with Australia, and so is Nick Madison on Australia A duty. So it'll be interesting how their batting lineup goes for the start. But I think their bowling lineup's quite settled with Kane Richardson, Nabi, Pattinson. I think they might get some early points there, but I don't think I'll be selecting them just because they don't have the double game week, but I do like Kane Richardson for round 1, Clinton.
Yeah, Fraser McGurk on the bench for me. But you're right. There'll be some games they go okay, but I think they're a team with overall a lot of young guys and will struggle with their depth. So it'll be interesting to see how they sort of perform come the middle rounds when it starts getting a bit of a grind, and I think a few losses will mount, but hope they go well.
Yeah, it comes back to that tactic of that you said earlier, that you want them to be getting points from multiple sources, and Kane Richardson's not going to be taking overly that many catches in the field or scoring batting. You're relying on him to get wickets, and there'll be matches that he'll be inconsistent with that, and it could hurt you come the end of the season. The Melbourne Stars, like we already mentioned, they've got the double up in game week 3 and then the bye in game week 4. And then they're back to having a double up in game week 8. They do have the tough fixture in round 1 versus the Sixers, who, in my opinion, are the best team, going for a 3-peat now, I think. So they are the best team that they're playing against in round 1. Some key players, Glenn Maxwell, like we already mentioned, I am trying to fit him into my team, but he's quite expensive, 195k. Stoinis, 163k. I've seen Adam Zampa in a few lineups, Clinton, over the last couple of days. He's 169k going into that double game week in round 3, he could be interesting. But a player I like who is come across from overseas is Saeed Faradon, who's 62k and presents good value. I think he'll play early rounds. And I also like Joe Clark, who potentially can take the gloves and might be opening come round 1.
Is it Joe Clark, is it? I knew it was Clark.
I think it's Joe.
Yeah. This is where as you suggested before, with the double in round 3, you sort of want to try and potentially sprinkle in 1 or 2 of them already. But Stars are a team that they've got a lot of talent at the top, and Stoinis and Maxwell often get the job done, and Zampa obviously a really successful big bash bowler. So the players I'm definitely eyeing off for round 3, but just how you fit them all is the issue, because they're obviously really expensive and really good. So I have to probably sit down and map out exactly how I'll structure and which trades I want to sort of, obviously with Brisbane in round 2. Sorry, it's choked there. Round 2. So it's a bit of a juggling act how to sort it out, because obviously then Adelaide
they've got double up in Thunder round 2.
No, who's that? Sorry,
I think Stars got Thunder round 2.
No, I'm talking about the buys, which is with Brisbane and then Adelaide in round 3. It's just that you want to target double game week round players, but then it's interesting because then Stars have a buy in round 4, so it's all interesting. But it's how you get those players in at the right time. So Stoinis, Maxwell, Zampa especially. But for now, at the moment, I don't have any.
It's interesting. My predicted lineup, I have Nick Larkin coming at 3 to bat, Maxwell 4, Cartwright 5, and then it gets quite interesting with their bowlers. They might be some youth players coming through, which haven't played very much cricket for the Stars, so it'll be interesting come their lineup round 1. The Perth Scorchers. Speaking of interesting lineups, on Supercoach currently, they have 11 active players. So I think they've got 15 in total. 4 of them have got crosses on them at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see if they have some key signings, or they're just very, very confident with how their team's going to line up in round 1, or there's an error when it comes to a cross. I'm not sure if Inglis got flown home already from Australian duties. So he's potentially an option to consider. He'll be taking the gloves if he is available. Marsh isn't available with an injury. Aston Agar's not available. And Jai Richardson's also not available for the early rounds. They have the double up in game week 4 and 9 and don't have a bye until round 11. So it's not a bad fixture there. It wouldn't be the worst result if you could squeeze one of these players into your team. I like Munro. He's one of the best T20 batters in the world. I think he's either the top ranked or one of the highest ranked anyway. He's 135k and he's available for the whole season from what I saw today. That could change, but an interesting player who's come across from Renegades, Hatzakoglu, 131k. And other than that, I'm not looking at too many other players come my round 1 team, Clinton.
With their double in round 4, Munro obviously see how he goes the first 3 rounds, but then is Berendorf injured at the moment? I'm not sure, but he's a bowler
there's no X on him.
He's a player that when he's in form, he swings the ball a lot and does get early wickets sometimes. So he's one who's a potential for round 4 as well, but not round 1.
Some lesser played players might be getting some opportunities early here with Patterson, Bancroft, Hardy, Kelly. If they don't sign too many more players, these guys are going to be playing round 1, where they've got Brisbane Heat, where they're not one of the highest rated teams, I would say, Brisbane Heat. So it'll be very interesting. Okay, we go across now to in my opinion, the number 1 ranked team in BBL, and they've got a double come game week 1. They've got no buys. So in my opinion, they've got the best fixture a lot. You can put a player there and just hold him for the whole season, and that's what I plan to do with Tom Curran, who is 201k batsman bowler. He closes out the game for the Sixers when he played a couple of seasons ago. He bats quite highly, 6 or 7, and he can close out the games with bat and ball. He's athletic in the field, so he'll be my captain come game week 1, Clinton. We've got Dan Christian, who there's question marks over him at the moment. I saw a few tweets earlier that he might be getting a bit old, but he just keeps performing, and he's a champion who's won many premierships for T20 cricket. Josh Philippe will be in my team. He'll open the batting. Because there's so many players that are so costly, Moses Enriques will probably get overlooked, 171k, but he might be a differential for players to consider. Some players who aren't playing this game week who are currently listed is Dorcas, Abbott, Jackson Bird, Carlos Braithwaite, and Nathan Lyon from their roster that aren't playing. The value pick of this lineup is Daniel Hughes, who will bat high up the order and is only 78k. He'll be in a lot of teams come round 1. Their other signing, they just announced the other day, Chris Jordan's arrived from England, who's 148k in Supercoach. So he'll be another option to consider. A lot of big name players there, Clinton.
Yes, obviously, 4 or 5 is I think the optimal choice. And there's a couple. You mentioned Chris Jordan late there, but I think he's only available for the first 4 or 5 game rounds. So I'm really keen on, and he bowls well at the death. So between him and Curran, they'll be probably doing those joint, probably bowling the last 4 to 5 overs there. And one more batsman that I really like who's in my team, actually. He's a bit cheaper than Enriquez, and that's Vince. He's a player that just oozes class, and I love watching him bat. So I think there were stages last year I had him and he disappointed, and then when I didn't have him, he scored it with ease. So, but I'm going to back him in. So he'll be my 5th of the ones you mentioned. Oh, Christian, you're right. He's been getting old for 10 years, but he keeps on getting the job done.
Yeah.
But he's someone I'll probably bypass this year, I think, because I just like that guys batting at the top, and then with the bowlers, Curran and Jordan, I'd prefer those 2 over Christian myself.
Yeah, James Vince, 153k. He performed very well in the finals last year. He didn't go very well when you had him in your team, but he was amazing come the semi-final and grand final. He pretty much won the game from off his own bat. Go across to a team of Sydney Thunder now, who have unavailable players of Doggett, Mahmood, Khawaja's with Australia, and Ollie Davies is not available either. They also don't have a bye, and they have a double up in game week 10. So it's a long time to wait for those players, similar to Hobart. I don't want to be selecting these players just because they don't have the double game week, and it's quite risky, but I've seen Daniel Sams in a lot of teams. He's a great player, performed well across BBL. Alex Hales is back again, and I also like Cutting, who's another player similar to Christian, who managers probably think they're getting on a bit, but they still getting points season after season, Clinton.
Did you say Mahmood was injured, did you, Blake? Or?
He's got a cross on him at the moment, so I think he's just not available early on.
No worries. And what about Billings?
Billings has got no X on him at the moment. He's a very good player.
Yes, I don't mind him as well. So they're one of those teams that a bit of a wait and see who's in form, and then you try and get them in, because you can't have them all, especially with so many players. You want to choose from the Heat and the Sixers initially, and then these are the types of teams that someone may just either score 100 or get 4 wickets in the first round. Then you want to try to get them in. So there's one of those teams that has a lot of top end talent, and just wait and see, unfortunately. But those are a few of the names I do like.
Yeah, they're tough to have with not having that double game week, but if they're in form, there'll be a lot of super coaches jumping on them. Billings is only 136k, so it's pretty good value in comparison to the likes of Philippi and other highly priced wicket keepers. So he might be an option if he hits some form. That wraps up our team previews there, Clinton. We'll go through and just quickly discuss some players that we're thinking about selecting at this current stage. Like I said, it's very rough because it's 5 days out, but I'm pretty confident with how my team's lined up. I've got a good mixture of double game week players plus players
4 days, Blake. 4 days. It's sooner than you think.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, 4 days. Thank you.
Yeah.
Time's getting away from us. So I've got Josh Philippi as my keeper with double game week. Harry Nielsen as the emergency, who's got the double up in game week round 2. Dan Christian, Daniel Hughes, Tom Curran are my other sixes. Chris Lynn, Ben Duckett, like I mentioned, and Majib Uraman is my vice captain currently. I've also got Xavier Bartlett, who's 97K. I think he'll present good value for the early rounds in a double game week. On my field, who doesn't have the double game week, I've got Joe Clark, who might be a bit of a differential, and he's got the double come round 3. Rashid Khan, love what he does each season. He's going to be with the Strikers as a key player. He's 198K and is on my field. And one differential that I currently have, Clinton, is Jordan Thompson for the Hobart Hurricanes. 125K. I think he presents great value. He is playing early on from what I've seen. From the stats and what everyone's saying about him, I think he'll bowl a lot of overs and bat around the 5 to 6 in their batting order. So he's on my team currently as it stands. My bench is Fraser McGurk, Matt Short for the double-up fixture, Saeed Faradon for Stars, and Josh Can for Hobart Hurricanes.
Great work, Blake. Well done. Who just mentioned you had your vice captain and captaincy on?
So Tom Curran is currently my captain. That's set to change with the I believe I'll switch that up come round 1, and Tom Curran will become my vice.
Yes.
And Uraman will be my captain, just with the structure of the vice, and so we can loophole, as you already mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those listening or watching, yes, try and have your VC on a Sydney Sixers player, and if that player fails in that first game, then you can captain a Brisbane Heat player. Is what I would suggest. So my team, as it stands, because there's every chance I'll have a serious shuffle before Sunday, but yeah, Philippe, Short at the moment, Lynn, Wildemoth, Vince, Hughes, Majib, Curran, Chris Jordan, Ahmed at the moment, and Bartlett. So I have 5 Sydney Sixers, 4 Brisbane Heat, and I'm going to really decide who I'll have out of those 2 spare spots. At the moment, I've got Short and Ahmed. I'm already thinking that if that's the way I structure up, I'll potentially trade out 3 of the Brisbane Heat players in Majib, Wildemoth, and Lynn, and that would open up a lot of funds to get probably 2 Adelaide Strikers and then maybe 1 Melbourne Star. It's the way I'm thinking already, because I've already got Short and Ahmed, and Khan would be definitely 1 player, and then probably 1 more Adelaide striker, and then I'll probably try and get Maxwell as well. Just early trade plans already. My bench reads Gilks, Fraser McGurk, Short, Khan from the Hobart team, and at the moment just a 42K Elliott for the Melbourne Stars, and I've got 50K in the bank. So I'll definitely shuffle a little bit, but I'm attacking the first round with the 9 double game week players, and then looking to bring in the Adelaide players, and then start having an early eye out for the Stars and Perth players especially. But as we mentioned, the likes of the Sydney Thunder, etc., there might be a random player that bobs up that you want to get in as well. So it's always good to have those double round players, but then you don't want to get trapped by having too many, then trying to juggle your team around that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Blake, and it's been a long day of research for me. So I've timed my run nicely. I haven't overindulged the last couple of weeks, and now I'm ready to go.
I'll reveal one of my strategies coming into round 2 for you, Clinton. I've currently got 4 Brisbane Heat players as well. I plan on using 2 of them as loophole players come round 2. So
there's a strategy. That's why he finished in the top dozen a couple of years ago.
So I could even go up to 5 players because I've got the 3 trades. I could even go up to 5 Brisbane Heat players by using that strategy and just keeping 2 of them as my loopers. So it will probably be my cheapest option. So Bartlett and Duckett will probably stay there for the round 2 fixture as my looping options. Chris Lynn and Uraman will come out so I can make way for funds. But that's a little insight into my strategy come round 2 for you, Clint.
Oh, that's why you're the expert, Blake.
Yeah. I'm also a little concerned for Gilks's if he'll get picked round 1 if Billings is available as well. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. As
that'll
I said, I've got 50K in the bank, so I may just get in Nielsen despite me saying it's a wait and see. But it depends who I choose between those last 2 spots, as I said, whether it be Short and Ahmed or someone else. But yeah, I've got enough money in the bank to try and upgrade a couple of bench options. So
that's good to be back, Clinton, where we'll be posting on social media platforms over the next 4 days in a lot of places. Make sure you check out the Patreon and get involved there in our community so that you can get involved in that top league. And hopefully we have some people sign up to the higher tier there so we can have one-on-one Zoom meetings with them to discuss their team and break down the teams like we've done for our teams this evening, Clinton. But that pretty much wraps up our show. Thank you for listening or watching wherever you've joined us today for the MINYIP Fantasy Sports Community Show. You got anything further to add there, Clinton?
Well, just the one thing which is pretty important is obviously you mentioned before about the fast turnaround in rounds. So often, obviously the games are at night time. So, and the next round often starts the next night. So we'll have to try our best every single round to try and record potentially the morning after the rounds finish, so we can create that. And then we'll be obviously potentially, this is going to be tight, I know, for you with your work, but we're going to see how we go. But we'll try and mention it in advance if we can't record between rounds, but we'll try our best.
Have you looked at the end of round 1 going into round 2, Clint?
I believe it's finishing Wednesday night. Is that right?
Wednesday night in Perth.
Yes.
So we'll be finishing after midnight. And then,
we record first thing in the morning.
Yeah, but the round will finish after midnight on the Wednesday night, and then the next round starts at 7:15 on the Thursday.
Yeah, so we'll try to record before your work starts, and then but we'll see. It's going to be challenging. I may be off duty as well, so it's going to be.
Ooh. Jeez.
Yeah, I might be at work as well, so it's going to be a challenge. But we'll try our best to do our thing. And if at the worst comes to worst, Blake, if you're available and I'm not, you could still put something out there.
And vice versa.
Probably not vice versa. But we'll try our best. And I haven't looked too far in advance, so I'm not sure that's the first round changeover, but we'll do our best to try and put some stuff out there. And potentially, Blake, maybe, yeah, it's a bit tricky, I know. But I was going to say maybe we could try and record before the last game as a.
No, we need to know our rankings.
Yeah, it's a fair point. We'll try and make it work. Might have some late nights.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all right, mate. We'll get through it. Look forward to the season. So the first lockout is 7:15 on Sunday, the 5th of December. So look forward to that. Look forward to discussing your teams with you on your social media platforms and get involved in our community through the leagues and the group chats. So it's been good, Clinton. We'll talk to you soon.
Looking forward to it, Blake. I'm going to beat you this year.
Oh, okay. Good way to finish the show. Thanks, mate.